if you feel like you're in your youth group for like 2-3 years, and you're like, it's not going anywhere. Like, it's not supposed to go anywhere. Like, you're going to have, like, there's some kids, like in my youth group, I've been here for a little over 2.5 years now, and there's kids that like love me. Like, they're at my house all the time, and like, just our personalities clicked. But to really have a youth ministry where it's you know, the youth ministries you look up to, you follow on the internet, it's because those youth pastors have been there for well over 5 years, and the vision is concrete. It's written on their walls, and the students get it. And like you said, when they come out of elementary school into middle school and high school, they're looking forward to that because they already know the impact they've had with their older brothers or the kids that they look up to. It's not going to be 2 years or 3 years before it's going to be completely flipped over and the way it needs to be. And I would say this to the person that's entering into a new ministry, whether you have, you know, 6th through 12th grade or just high school, don't feel like you necessarily have to focus on the juniors and seniors immediately. You don't want to neglect them, but realize that they're going to be gone in 6 months to a year or 2 years, and they might never buy into your system or buy into who you are. But you have those freshmen who are doe-eyed, who never even knew who the previous guy really was that left, and they just, all they know probably at that point is the transitional team between the two youth pastors and you. And I've heard this before, and I'm not a middle school guy. I have 7th and 12th grade. If I could just do high school, that would be probably fit my personality better. And I really respect middle school guys. But every person I've talked to has a successful middle school ministry. They've all told me the same thing. If you get middle schoolers to buy into Jesus and into the ministry, you have a lot longer retention rate with those kids than those kids that you just focus on who are juniors and seniors.
Yeah, and one thing to note when you're going into view of a call or you're meeting with churches and things like that, because chances are, whatever the time life is on this video, there's some of you out there that are looking for churches, and it's very difficult. And I did this with here at Second Baptist in Conway, Arkansas. I met with the group because a lot of times the team is made up at least a handful of parents that have upperclassmen. Yeah. And they don't like to hear the fact that, you know, and you don't want to lie about it, but I'm very upfront. I'm saying, listen, I'm going to do whatever I can to connect with those sophomores through seniors. But the reality is, they are becoming their own individuals. They evaluate. They understand that relationships take time and energy, and they're going to evaluate me when I hit the door. Is this guy? Do I have enough time? I'm out of here in 6 months. I'm out of here in a year and a half, or whatever. And it's difficult to lay that down because that's the reality. You'll get a few of them that connect with you and buy in, and they're the ones that are hungry and understand it. But there's going to be some that, you know, might go with some of your events, might go on a mission trip with you or whatever. But as far as being with your family and different things like that, like Frank said, it's going to be the younger ones coming up because that's your farm system. You got the children's ministry and things like that. That's why I know some of us have to work with VBS, and I'm sorry, but I'm specifically there at VBS to connect with the children so that they get to know my face, get to know who I am, what I do, my job is, and different things. Of course, then we staff it with loads of junior and senior high students helping out with VBS. But the thing is, it's important to, when you're in the reality of meeting with those search teams and explaining to them that it's going to be difficult to connect with sophomores or seniors, that's just a reality. You know, because it plays out into when, you know, as they go into 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, they're going to buy into you. They're going to realize that you're here. They're, you know, the last guy was here a short time, or the last guy, you know, flamed out, or whatever happened. But, you know, that trust is important to do. So when you look at a search team, they need to have realistic expectations as far as what's the turnaround time. If they give you, say, hey, how long do you where do you see it in 3-5 years? And say, well, 3 years, I see some 3-year growing pains, which I'm now 4 years, 4-year growing pains of trying to get them to understand where we're going and what we're doing. Year 5, boom, hopefully it'll be firing on all cylinders, but the chances of it happening like that, not very good. Right. All right. You know, you're talking, I was at my last church for 8 years. I mean, I felt like, you know, at that point, it was just really motoring along. And God calls me out of that. And of course, that was one of the main things. The reason I didn't want to move churches was because of that. Now I've got to do all of that stuff all over again. But I love it. I love the mechanics of student ministry. I love seeing a student move from point A to point B in their faith. It might not be salvation, but if you can get them, you know, from farther along in understanding to that life-saving faith of Jesus Christ, then that's awesome. But, you know, I would love to have Ideal student for me, long-term Crockpot type of ministry, is a student that understands his faith, knows why he believes what he believes, but he has a heart for his friends at school and in his family that don't know Jesus. You give me 10 of those guys, over 150 kids just showing up to listen to music and to hang out, you change the world with that kind of stuff. And that's why, we keep going back, say, listen, unless you radically, as a student, radically care for your fellow human beings and their eternal salvation, I mean, that's going to dictate how you live your life. There's no question to it.
But to answer your point, I always tell my kids this: if you really love your friends, if you really love your best friends and stuff like that, what's more loving than telling them about Jesus and showing them the love of Christ?